Hello everyone and welcome to our Evex webinar on the project work breakdown structure. Today I have the pleasure of introducing Laura Tipper, who's going to go through a lot of some great content around what you can do using the projects module and really get in depth into how it's set up and how powerful it can be. Before that, I just kind of like to introduce Evex and some of who we are. So first and foremost, Evex is a global company. We have offices in Atlanta, which is where we are today for our North American headquarters. We are headquartered out of the UK, and we have 3 offices in England. We have an offshore development team in Jordan, and we have a small practice in Saudi. Over 280 staff worldwide and over 300 installations worldwide as well. So we have a lot of coverage. We've been around for a long time. We were founded in '99 in the UK, and we started up our US practice in 2006. So we've been around for a long time. As part of our global implementations where we don't have coverage in a certain country, we actually use the AX Pact, which is a network of partners that we work closely with in other regions. We are privately owned and managed, which is an interesting and unique fact about us, and a lot of the original owners are still very active in our day-to-day management. We have always been 100% Microsoft focused, so we focus solely on the Microsoft stack. We're quite large, so we're about 44 million in annual revenues globally, and as part of that, we've been constantly profitable. So we've been around for a long time, and we will be around for a long time. In terms of what we deliver, so we focus, again, solely on the Microsoft stack around CRM, ERP, and BI. What we're going to be focusing on today is the ERP sector, and within that, Dynamics AX. Just so you're aware, we have adopted Azure, both private and public cloud, and we have a managed services division as part of Evex. And to give you some comfort, you know, we've won a lot of awards. We are a gold partner. We were also reseller of the year for several years in a row. In 2013, we won Global Partner of the Year, again speaking to our ability to deliver global projects. And in 2015, we won Inner Circle yet again. So that's awarded to the top 1% of partners for Microsoft, which is a very large achievement. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Laura, who's going to take you through some of the actual agenda and get running.
Thanks, Charlotte. Okay, so today, like Charlotte said, we're going to go through the work breakdown structures, how to, some features of them, how to go ahead and create them as a template, use those templates in project quotations and projects, how you would then use the resource allocation within the WBS to assign various workers to specific tasks in the WBS, how you can sort of manage your resources across projects, and then how you can use the new features of the WBS to track your project progress. I will be using 2012 R3 in this demo, and there are new capabilities in R3 that weren't in some of the earlier 2012 versions. All right, so WBS Features. You may be familiar with what a work breakdown structure is, but you know, and a lot of people work with them essentially within, you know, Microsoft projects. So it's just a hierarchical structure of project activities so that you can, you know, manage your project tasks and break down costs to a level that where you want to track the costs and the project assignments. New in the R3 is the ability to go ahead and link those tasks, so you have the predecessor relationships that, you know, everybody's used to within Microsoft projects. So that's very useful so that your dates then align accordingly based upon those relationships. You can create WBSs as templates. This is really a very useful tool. A lot of companies create very sort of small modular WBS templates that then can be pulled into projects or project quotations to build up a larger work breakdown structure. So that's very helpful. And if you have a work breakdown structure that you like within a project, you can also save it as a template for future use. So that's very helpful. You can then pull those templates into a project or project quotation, like I said, but you can also pull a WBS from anywhere in AX into a project or a quotation. So it doesn't have to have been saved as a template. If you know there's one that's out there that's useful to you, you can go ahead and pull that in. Then you can modify it and use it going forward in whatever fashion you like. Again, new in the R3, you have a couple of different views of your WBS where you can view the actual costs and hours against the WBS. So you have what's called a cost tracking view, and you have an effort tracking view. So you have those two views of your progress to date. You can assign resources both to project level, to the project itself, hard and soft book resources, but you can also assign them to the specific WBS activities, and then I'll show you how you can see that across all the projects and view people's availability. Because of our cost and effort tracking views within the WBS, it effectively gives you the ability to manage your estimate at completion and your estimate to completion. All right, so we'll go through a bit of that too. A lot of what I'll go through today I'll actually demonstrate within the system. So first what I'm going to show you is how to go ahead and create a WBS template. What I'll do is I'll just show you in the system, and then I'll come back and we'll just run through this slide and make sure I've covered all the bits and pieces. So I'll just navigate here to my actual environment. So here I have a demo environment, and I'm in the project accounting module. The creation of the WBS templates is done under the setup, under project setup here. So I can go into work breakdown structure templates. So this is where I would, all my different WBS templates would be listed. You can have any number of them in this list. Simple to create a new one, just say new, give it a name, LWT webinar template. You can decide whether or not it's active. Perhaps if you're going ahead and just creating it at the beginning, you might not want it to be active until you've got it kind of in the state that you're happy for it to be active. I'll just leave mine active now. It's not a problem. So simple enough. New task button in the top left there. Type my task name, project design. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do so. I'm just going to create a few tasks here, just sort of get them in here. Now I know that what I've got is I'm going to have, I want to start building the hierarchy. So I want my mechanical design to be a subtask under project design. So having created it, I will now just indent it. So you've got your indent and outdent to set them at whatever level you want within your system here. So if I want another thing at the same level as mechanical, I'll just, with that selected, I can do new task, and then when I save this, you can see that it creates it at the same level as mechanical design automatically. So wherever I've selected within the WBS and say new task, I will get a task at that same level. So if I now want something at the same level as project design, I would say maybe prototype. And you can see I've got now 2.0. I can open this back up and you see the ones I've created so far. If that were to be, so I can use my indent here, can make that, a sub thing of electrical design or whatever. So it does a nice sort of, view here where things are indented and you've got the IDs set up for you. So that's all really handy and easy to do. You can also move tasks up and down here if you want them in a different order. So you've got these different, these different buttons that sort of just let you design your hierarchy. You've got the ability here to view different levels. This is sort of similar to some of the Microsoft project capabilities. So if I only wanted to see level 1, so that's very helpful if you've got a very large multi-level work breakdown structure. You can just use that expand to level to customize your view. Okay, so I'll show all levels here. So what I've got here is just my basic structure. Let me go back to my chart really quick here. Sorry, get there. Where did that go? Okay. Seems to have jumped out of my view there. Okay, right. What I want to show next is do this here. Okay, so at this level, I can go ahead and say how many hours are associated with the task. So, for example, I'll pick a category here. For all of the lowest level tasks, you have to have a category assigned, an hour category assigned. So I'll say that this is going to be a design engineer doing our prototype, and it's going to take him, let's say, 40 hours. Oops, sorry, it's not 41. Leave that as 1, put that back to 40 hours. And you'll see it automatically calculates the duration of 5 days. That's based upon my calendar underlying the system, which is an 8-hour a day calendar. Now, if I wanted to go ahead and say that those 40 hours were perhaps going to be spread over 10 days, so maybe he's only working 4 hours a day on it, what I get is it goes ahead and does that for me. So you can see I've got 40 hours over 10 days. You can see my little warning triangle here that's come up. That's because the system is just warning you that basically that the math doesn't work in terms of the whole, I've got one resource over 40 hours. Nominally, that would be a 5-day task. So it's kind of just warning you there in case, in case you wanted everything to be based off of an 8-hour day. And if I wanted to fix that kind of a thing, I could just hit this button here and it would automatically correct that back for me. So you've got the ability to do the spreading of the hours if you want to, but if you want to go ahead and let the system, correct that and have it be just a nominal 8-hour day and full capacity there, you can just use this fix all scheduling discrepancies to do that. I could also just take the automatic scheduling off and go ahead and put those in across the board at whatever sort of effort and duration I wanted to do. Okay. If I take that off, then my little warning triangle goes away too if you find that annoying. Okay. Let's look at this here. It'll be easier. Okay. So again, I could have changed the number of resources I wanted to, having assigned that to making that task 40 hours. If I'd assigned it to 2 people, that would have been, half of a week, and it would have automatically calculated the task duration. And then in terms of predecessors, so if I add another task in here, maybe under my, maybe I'll say that my mechanical design is reliant on my electrical design being complete. So you've got the predecessor thing drop down here, and so I can assign, you notice some of them are gray because it's not, it's not relevant to, you end up with circular references if you pick other things. So it's gone ahead and told me what I can base my mechanical design on. So I could say that it has to be based off the prototype being complete, or I could say, both of these if, perhaps there were multiple things within electrical design. So you can set up your predecessor relationships here. And since we're working in a template, of course, you can't see any sort of date effects here. But what this does is it sets up those relationships so that when you do pull this into a project or a project template that then has a date associated with the project, then the date fields show up within the WBS, and you can see how those all flow together based upon your durations and your predecessor relationships. All right, so that's just basically how you set up the structure of the template. Now, if we look at doing more detailed estimates of the hours and tasks, what I can do here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to one that I've kind of set up before that has a bit more in it. So I've got this example here, so let's open this one here. So I've got a little bit more of a detailed template here. So what I've done, what you do is within the line details, open the line details for a given line, and I can go into what's called the estimated costs and revenues. So for this mechanical design line here, 1.1, I've defined that I've got design hours, 16 design hours, and because I have my sales and cost price tables set up within project management and accounting, my costs pull in automatically. I'll show you here. I'll add a line here. If I add another line for some sort of category here, say it's some test person, you can see I've already got my cost and sales prices. They've pulled in from my cost and sales price tables, and then now you'll see too here that the total effort for the task has, is shown here as 24. Okay. It only reflects one of the categories here that I put in at this level. So even though it says design engineer, you can see that I can have multiple hours really breaking up at the lower level. I've also put in some travel costs for expense, and again, some of that pulls through depending upon how you've got your cost and sales price tables pulled in. So you can go through here and you can build up quite an elaborate set of costs that will build up for this task. You can also go through, if you want to, and define the type of person you need to perform this task. I've assigned some skills here, engineering and manufacturing. You can see here there's a whole slew that have been put into the system. This is completely customizable configurable by you. You can just, user controlled list of skills. I picked engineering and manufacturing. You can also define certain project experience. Maybe you need them to have worked on a previous project, so you can put that in there. Or perhaps certifications. I believe under design review here, I go into the line details for design review. Under certifications, I don't have any in there. I can say, for example, I need somebody with project management experience, for example. And you can also specify some stuff in education. So those will be used later when we do our resource planning. So, but you can define those, and those are defined at a task level. So even though I've got a couple of different kinds of engineers here for design review, the project management experience is actually applicable to the task level and not to the detailed cost and estimate line. So that's something to be aware of. All right, so I've got my estimates in here. I could also put in item estimates if I were going to build a specific item. Let's put in another task under here. Did that task. Let's say produce item, and then I will add a line here for my item. Call it out by item number if you like. And I'm going to build or provide one of them. And this item obviously wasn't set up with its default cost and the release product record, so I can just put in my cost and sales price. All right, so indent this here under my production. Oops, I need my site and warehouse for that item. The item was not quite set up properly. There we go. Yeah, super. And now I can go ahead and indent this. All right, so I showed you the cost and estimate form here, which you've also got as a general tab, which gives you for the whole, it takes all your estimated cost and revenue lines here. It's probably more useful to see it here. So if I have, so under design review, you see I've got my what's that, 16 hours. So it tells you here 16 hours, 2 resources, and the number of days I've got in here based on that. Same sort of summary as that. But I can go, what's useful is to be able to go up now to my summary task 1, design activities. You can see design activities as a whole is 64 hours. And most usefully here is being able to see my sales and cost estimates. So once you've built up your whole hierarchy of WBS, you look at your top level task at the very highest, and you can see your total cost and your total sales estimate. So I see a lot of companies going ahead and building up their WBS, and then looking at this as their total sort of cost and revenue numbers for the whole project. All right, so descriptions, costs and revenues, all your worker requirements in your WBS line details, and then, like I said, at the summary level, you can see your effort and sales and cost estimates. All right, so having set this template up, I'm going to close my template. You can see I could export to Excel if I want. I could put attachments against a given task as well, sort of standard AX capabilities there. I'm going to go ahead and close my template. It is active. I'm going to go ahead and pull this template into a project quotation, show how I would use that. So I'm going to open my project quotation grid list here, and go ahead and do a new project quotation. Pick my customer account, do that for the Desert Wholesales. All right, so I've got a new project quotation here, so I'll go and say maintain WBS. So I'll get a blank WBS here. What I want to do is I want to go ahead to the WBS tab and go ahead and import a template under selected tasks. So here my drop down gives me those templates that were in my template list. Like I mentioned in the features, I could actually untick this show only templates, and what I've got here basically is a list of not only the templates, but anywhere WBS has been created as part of a project or a project quotation. So that gives me the ability to pull one in from anywhere. I just want my template though, so I'll pull that one in. Takes just a second to go out and do that. There we go. And so it's pulled in here, my template. And you'll see now I actually have dates in here. Now those dates are based off of the date I had in my project quotation here, my estimated start date. Should have been. No, it wasn't. Okay. Okay. So my work breakdown structure there, and my project quotation dates here. Calendar production. I have numbers, calendars I could identify here, and my work breakdown structure is here. Okay, so okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close that. I'm going to see and then my dates in my quotation here have changed to match the WBS. I wanted to start my first task here. I'm going to change to start my first task today. There we go. And then everything else should roll through. Let me just let that update. Oh, thanks to all those predecessor relationships. Our server's out in another country, so it's a bit slow. Okay. I'm going to do next. I'm going to pull this, what I'm going to do next, I'm going to go ahead and pull this WBS into my quotation to create the actual quotation lines. And that will allow us to, sorry about this. There we go. So you can see it's got some sort of, it's giving me an error because some of the stuff we're starting before its predecessor. It's just going to go ahead and say to fix all that, and it should work everything out for me. I should have left it in 2012. Okay, well, let me go back to my slides while we wait for that. So what I wanted to make a point of is when I pull those lines into my WBS quotation, so you'll get all the lines as individual lines, all those WBS tasks and all those estimate lines within each line detail become a flat structure within your quotation. If you then modify any of the details associated with one of those quotation lines, it does maintain that link to your WBS, so your WBS is updated as well. So It's kind of useful to be able to look at it in that flat line view and then make any sort of last minute tweaks to your maybe to your quantities and things like that in your quotation, and know that they'll be back in your WBS. Because once I've gone ahead and submitted my quotation to workflow and had that approved, submitted it to my customer, once the customer comes back and tells me I've won the work, I can use the transfer to project wizard from the quotation and create my project, either a new project or move it into an existing project. And by doing so, that WBS transfers directly into my new project or into my existing project, and that whole structure is maintained. And you don't have to go ahead and recreate that information. I know lots of companies have the problem where they send out quotations. They've captured all that data maybe in an Excel spreadsheet, in an estimate spreadsheet of some sort. And then once the project's created, they've got to sort of recreate that information to form their Microsoft project schedule, or their whatever tool they're using to create their activities and schedule those. So the beauty of this is that connection between the project quotations and the project is it's done through a wizard and completely seamless, and works really well. So you've got that as soon as you've won the project, you've got the the information starting out. So here I've got I'm going to do this real quick, create my quotation lines for my WBS. Yeah. So you can see they've come up here, and all these lines are now in my quotation, and I can look at my totals, and it gives me all my total information. So I would just submit that to workflow, it would get approved, and then I would send it through the wizard to create my actual project. So when I end up with it in a project, I'll go to my projects here. I'll show you one here. I've got my design project here. Again, in the plan tab, you can see your work breakdown structure here. And so I've got it here with all the sort of activities that were set up in the template. Okay, so that's using it in a quotation and pulling it into the project. The other thing to note is, as I say here, you can, from your project, I could go ahead, if I made some modifications to this and wanted to save it as a template, I could go ahead and export my WBS to a template. Note that when you do that, however, it does not save the predecessor relationship. So even though you can set them up in a template, it won't be saving this. But you can set them right back up in your template if you want. It's quite easy to do. All right, so that's using the template to do that. What we're going to show now is how you would go ahead and assign resources. So firstly, what you can do, and this is again new to R3, this is really helpful. You can go ahead and soft or hard book people generically to your project. So I can say, I'm going to create this role. I've only got one role called team member here, and I want to maybe have 2 people on that. I've got my book workers immediately task, so it's going to go ahead and bring me up a form to allow me to book people to this, to my project. So right here, I've got all these people that have their worker records set up to allow them to to be booked to projects, and you can see their sort of availability here. I can actually tick this display remaining capacity at the top, so I can see, in case anybody was partially booked, you could be able to see, you can see that Lars out here has some partial availability for that week upcoming. So what I can do from here is I could go ahead and assign somebody, maybe Takashi Andrews. I can go ahead and I'll go ahead and hard book them to the project. Now this is not to any specific WBS task, but this is just to the project. I'm going to reserve them to the project. And you can see I've got a couple of options here. I can either book their full capacity to the project, I can book a percentage, or I can specify a number of hours. So for example here, I could say I want to specify 80 hours of his time, and it'll either book the first available hours, so the first couple of weeks of his time, or I can distribute those between the start and end dates of the project. So if I do that, for example, you can see here, so now Takashi is partially booked all the way out for the next few weeks. And because I've got my display remaining capacity, you can see how many hours are left in each week. I can also You can see up here, I can look at this in a day view every day, or I can, I can look at it in terms of a month or week view. You've got a couple of different options there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just leave Takashi booked. I'm going to go ahead and close this. You can see here, so I defined 2 roles, but and I just made an assignment for 1 role. You can see Takashi's booked, but not assigned. So that means that they're booked to the project, but not assigned to any tasks specifically. So this is a way of just kind of reserving people. If you need them to be reserved to your project and make sure nobody else grabs them as a resource, go ahead and make the hard booking. A soft booking does not restrict them from being booked somewhere else. So if you need to make sure they're not booked anywhere else, you go ahead and do your hard booking. Now from here, if you wanted to go ahead and make detailed assignments to the WBS activities, we'll go ahead and go back to our WBS, and you've got a couple of different ways of making assignments within the WBS. One way is just to go out here to your worker column and use the drop down. Okay, so what it does by default is it brings up people who are hard or soft booked in the project view. So you can see Takashi Andrews is here, so I could easily pick him. If there were multiple people, I could pick multiple people to assign to this task. If, however, I want to pick somebody that wasn't even assigned to my project yet, I do have my view more workers here, and that brings up the same sort of resource planning form that we were just looking at before. So even though it gives you kind of who you've already picked, you're not restricted to that view. You're not restricted to those people. So I can go ahead and assign Takashi here. All right. Okay, and I can see by doing so, if I go back to my project really quick, you can see now he's got 16 hours assigned to a specific task, and his hours booked have moved up because of the way in which those dates are defined within in the work breakdown structure. The other way you can assign somebody to a specific task, so if I go maybe to my design review task here, if I open up my line details again, I can go now to this worker assignments tab. I could either select the assign automatically, and the system would go out and basically assign anybody with availability to these to this task here for the 16 hours. Or if I want a bit more control of it, I can use my assign worker. And that, again, brings up the same form we've just been using. But in this state, the reason I'm going to bring it up and do it here is what I want to do is I want to open up this worker search criteria. Because if you recall, we set up that we had a certification required, the PMP certification. It defaults to saying that it doesn't have to have any sort of level of skills match, but I want to say that I want somebody with 100% skill match to this set of criteria, looking at the skills, experience, and certifications. So if I now do a search, it's going to change my list of people available here. You can see that there are only 3 people in the company with the PMP certification. Those are set up within the individual worker records, all their certifications and stuff. So I'll go ahead and I can pick Luke, and again I can do I've got my different options here. I'll say book his full capacity there. Now he's booked, and close that out. You can see he's hard booked for 8 hours there for that task. Okay, I would need to go ahead and assign another resource for the other 8 hours. So hit the assign automatically, then I get the other 8 hours assigned to Takashi automatically. So pretty simple to go ahead and do your resource assignments in either way. And then of course, having made those assignments through this form, they're still available here in your worker records. So you can get this whole nice view of your work breakdown structure and who's assigned to the tasks. Okay, so that's the assigning people to projects and tasks. Now, if I want to go ahead and look across projects, manage my resource across projects, what I've got a couple of different forms here in project management and accounting. I have got my resource availability form here. Right, so this should be starting to look familiar. Display remaining capacity here, and between some sort of time. You can set your time periods here. Okay, any worker in a department, and so I can refresh that and see anybody who's available and what their capacity is. All right, 9 workers found, Takashi, and all the different people. So that just gives you a view across all projects. So I wanted to, let me look back at my project here. Where was he assigned on those dates? So from that was back in September. So let me, because I want to show you something back here. So let's go expand our time scale here and refresh that. You need to see the details about what people are assigned. If I right click now, if I double click on that, sorry, and open that up, now I get the details of the specifics of what project was assigned and what the hard and soft book hours were. You can even see if the project had a project manager or sales manager assigned, you would see that, so you could know who you'd go out to negotiate maybe if you need that person's time. Okay, so you can also see some more full booking details here and get a bit more granular view just for Takashi, for example, here. Okay. So you can drill into this information here and you know, and see the details across all of the projects. Close this. The other form I have back in my project management accounting is my resources form, and this just gives you all of your workers who are set up to be booked to projects, their title if they've got one assigned, their sales price, type of employment, their calendar, and the default project category. So you can kind of see how they are set up. You can go ahead and to be a resource, basically you have to be a worker in the system, and you also have to have your calendar defined. So that's what makes them show up on that list. Okay, so again, so that was so we looked at our resource availability form, and then we also have a resource assignments form. I was going to show you. Where is that going? Oh, yes. Resource assignments is down in inquiries. So for a given time period here, let's look back from here, September, and search. So what I've got here is every assignment in the system for the period of the 1st of September through today. Okay, so this is every little assignment. You can go ahead and filter it by project, or you can filter it by worker, so you see it across everything, and it gives you a good ability to look at the data in a way that that you might want to use it for analysis. And so I can export that to Excel. You can also see whether they're filter by whether they're hard or soft booked. So this just gives you a nice grid list of the information, primarily I think for getting it out to Excel for further analysis. Got the requirement analysis here by there we go. Start there. Right, so you got this by worker here. In this view, this is nice because this just gives you a summary view. So if you don't need to analyze it in quite the same way, you can see for each person their hard and soft booked hours, their total capacity, unscheduled, and then the percent utilization. So you can see that at a worker view there in the requirement and the resource analysis by worker, or a similar sort of form by project, giving you the project type, project name, start and end dates, and how many of the hours in a given project have been assigned, and how many are unassigned, how many WBS unstaffed hours you have. So there's a number of different forms in this system that allow you and inquiries that you can look at to get a good overview of where you are with your resource assignments across all your projects. Okay, so resource assignment by worker, and your resource assignment by project. Okay, now So having made some of these assignments and done some work, let's see if we can look at a couple of different views we have in our project for analyzing how we are proceeding to date. So back in my work breakdown structure here, I've been using my project planning view here, but what I've also got is my effort and cost tracking views. If I look at my effort tracking view here, you can see that for some of my tasks, I have actually had actual hours already booked. Now these were either journaled into the system manually via the project journals, or they could come in through the timesheet system. So you can see here under electrical design, I have 12 hours booked of my total 48, which of course gives me a progress percent of 25 with a remaining effort of 36 hours. Now this does a straight calculation thing, so it's gone ahead and said that that my projected effort variance here is minus 28 hours because I've gone ahead and said I planned an effort of 20 hours, forgive me, and I went ahead and modified the effort at the remaining effort. See, if I have, let's do it on another task here. I'm sorry, this is part of another WBS. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a actual hours against the test prototype. Let's just journal in an hour there, and you'll see how this works a bit better. Manage some. Go ahead and journal in an hour, and then new. Okay, my activity here, then I'm going to put this on my build a prototype. I'll put in 2 hours, post that. Okay, close my journal. If I go back to my work breakdown structure and refresh this, you see my 2 hours here. Okay, so I'm 3.44% done, and it's saying that my planned effort was 32, and my effort at completion is 58. So what do I want to say? So if I know, for example, that even though I've done 2 hours, I only really have 8 left to go. I'm going to say I've got 8 left. Eight left to go here. And it goes ahead and recalculates, and it's saying that my variance, I'm going to be positive by 22 hours, okay? So you can go ahead, even though it's going to calculate stuff for you, you can go ahead and, maybe on a monthly basis when you're doing your monthly cost to complete exercise, you can go ahead and put in what you believe that the remaining effort is, and it will then calculate your variances for you, right? So, and recalculate your progress percent as well. So my total effort now will have been 10 because I said 2 and 8, and even though the planned effort was 32, so I have a positive variance of 22. If I look at my cost tracking view, I have my 2 hours of costs, so that was at $10 each, so I had $20 expended, and so I've got a negative variance here, and if I know that my cost to complete now, maybe I have a whole bunch of expenses and additional costs there, so I'm going to say I've got another 1,000 to go on this, then it's going to go ahead and calculate for me my variance. In this case, is a negative cost, and I had a planned cost of 320. So even though it's doing the calculations for you, you can use these the cost to complete column and let it calculate your variances in order to figure out where you are at the end of each month. All right, if I go back to my project plan view. Okay. See. You can also, that's a good point, you can also on your summary task, if I were to go ahead and see my effort tracking view on my prototype here, if I wanted to go ahead, it's currently calculating a remaining effort of 29.82. If I know that at the summary level, I want to go ahead and change the effort to remaining effort at a summary level, it will go ahead, I can go ahead and sort of I can put that in, and it will use the percentages that were in there already and go ahead and spread that remaining effort across the two subtasks. So you can even do your cost to complete exercise at a summary level, as opposed to at the detailed level. Okay. So, and then in the cost tracking view, when I made those changes to the effort tracking view, you will have seen that it did go ahead and update, the estimated completion and cost variance. But what's interesting is when I make the changes in my cost tracking view, because I can go ahead and put costs here that might not necessarily be hours. For example, I was discussing making, potentially there were additional expense costs. It doesn't then roll back into the effort tracking. So if I so you can see here on the effort tracking view for the test prototype here, if I say my remaining effort is 30 hours, it will go ahead and update my cost. But see, so now I have a negative 14.4. But if I go ahead and update my cost here, it does not reflect back on the hours because it doesn't know if those costs are hours or other costs. So you can see that stayed at 30. So you just need to be aware that it rolls the hours into the cost, but not necessarily vice versa. Right. Well, that is it. I know that was quite quick. You've also got the ability here. You've got, you can see having talk a little bit about this. So we've got a couple more minutes. Having brought my my costs over into my work breakdown structure. The other powerful thing about having brought my work breakdown structure into the project is you can go ahead and create your starting budget for your project from that. All these WBS estimate lines are effectively the starting budget for my project. And so I can go ahead and transfer these WBS estimates to my forecast. You can see here I've got an item, I've got hours, expenses would be in there if I had any expense lines. So if I go ahead and transfer them into a forecast model, current forecast, for example, or maybe original budget, that then forms the my hour expense and item forecast from which my project budget can be created, and I can baseline that project budget. So, starting from a project quotation with your WBS, transferring it to your project to create your structure for activities and resource planning, but also for creating the starting budget and using those forecasts and those forecast model data to make your starting budget for your project. So that's a very useful feature as well. If you have items, you can also transfer your WBS estimates to create any item requirements in the task. I've already done that in this one, so that in your project you have your item requirements, which came from your WBS, which are the items that you want to deliver under your project. So a lot of things come from your WBS, and there's lots of good functionality that came about in R3 that really makes this whole resource planning a lot more thorough. All right, so I hope that's been informative. Happy to answer any more questions, particularly since I went through it at quite speed. If you have any questions, I'll get to my email address here. If this at all interests you and you want to take some next steps, we do have a couple of different things that you could talk to us about. We have a project audit if you have a project underway that maybe needs a bit of help, or you just want some advice and some assistance. We can come up with some package of work either done on site or remotely that can come in and audit your project and make recommendations on things that might be improved or ways in which to maybe get things back on track. If you're thinking about upgrading, we have a proof of concept that we can go through and work through with you and demonstrate to you how we would implement an upgrade with your company. And of course, we have a number of different upcoming webinars that we have out there that you can check out on our evex.com site. This is my email address. Do feel free to email me if you have any further questions, or if you start using the WBS functionality. I see a lot of companies using it, just using it in projects, maybe if they're not even a project-based company, to do sort of maybe capital investment projects or new product introduction kind of things. And I've even seen it do it for just sort of training projects and things like that, and have different tasks that people can work on. So I'm happy to answer any questions about how that can be useful to you. If you start playing with it and have any questions, just give me a shout and I'll be happy to help. So I know we're ending a little early today, but hope that's been useful to you, and you all have a good rest of your afternoon. I'll check the questions here. No questions. Thank you all. Bye-bye.